You know, there was never a moment in time where I said, wow, I want to be a dog trainer. I think my life was always guided in that direction. Nice. Check, 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 check. Leaving. Penny, it's a blind there, right? So check and go. Today, where I am today, I absolutely adore training my own dogs, but I love helping other people achieve things they never thought possible with their own dogs. And the heartfelt letters that I get, the tearful people who say, you know, we were going to have to euthanize this dog because we couldn't fix it, and with your help now, I mean, he's just a great family pet and we're doing amazing things in agility, and that's what I love about what I do today. Handle every obstacle, including the backside, and use your arm and then see the dog, and you are plenty fast enough. You know, it's true I didn't get my very first dog on my own until I was in my late 20s. I had trained dogs really my whole life, but I never owned one. So my sister, she had conformation show dogs, and when she would come home and leave the dogs at home, I would teach them tricks, which really was unimportant to her and her time in the show ring, but I loved to do it. I trained so many of other people's dogs before I ever owned my very first dog, and to me that was a huge, huge blessing in my life, because I got to see how different breeds of dogs responded. And a real pivotal point for me was a little farm dog that I got. It was a puppy that I was training, and it was a rough collie. And the books told me, teaching the dog to sit, you pull up on the collar and push down on their butt. Well, this little puppy wasn't going to take it. And so I thought, well, I had success training all these tricks in the past. Why don't I just apply that and teach her to sit like it was a trick? And this dog who I struggled with for 7 days to teach a simple sit, by the next 7 days, I taught her about 15 tricks. All I had to do was connect with her on a level that she was trying to teach me to do. You know what? Dogs don't need to be pushed around. Dogs need to be engaged and find out what they love and work with their innate behaviors. When I did decide to get my first dog, I was really involved with horses at the time and in dressage, and everybody at the barn had a Jack Russell, so I started looking for my first Jack Russell. And when I did go and look at a litter, there was only one puppy left. There were 7 in the litter, 1 puppy left. She didn't have proper ears for a Jack Russell, and being from my conformation background, I needed the dog with proper ears. Plus she was the last puppy, so really how good could she be? And I decided to pass, and I told the fellow I wasn't interested, and he said, you know what, I'm going to give you the night, and you call me tomorrow morning and tell me for sure if you want me to sell her to somebody else. And I never gave that another thought that night. I knew I didn't want that puppy, but I was being polite. I didn't want to let him know I didn't think his puppy was worth anything. I got up the next morning, I dialed the phone with the intention of saying, sell the puppy. And as the phone was ringing, this voice in my head said, this dog's going to change your life. And at that moment, he picked up the phone and I said, I'll come over and bring a check. And that's how I got Shelby, who ended up being a national champion in the United States. And she was a phenomenal dog. I mean, I learned so much from her, and she's who started my career. Dig here, shoulder back, and say, get back, and just leave. Because that's going to give him more enthusiasm and drive in your body motion, right? Okay. But while you're saying get back, and then he has to wait for you to get all across the bar, and he's a patient boy and he's a really good dog, but I don't want him to be patient. I want him to, drive. So I want you to just be, let your hair down. Dig, 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 go. Shoulder back. Wah! Get back and power. Just drive all through that.
I'll try.
Go crazy. You're allowed to make a mistake.
You ready?
I've had a lot of agility dogs in my career, and I've had a lot of success with all of my agility dogs. But when I think of the biggest challenges I've had, definitely 2 stand out, and that would be Buzzy and Decaf. And for completely opposite reasons. Buzzy was a high drive, over the top border collie who was manic. I mean, everything he did incredibly fast. Now, Buzzy today is 17 and a half years old, and he still enjoys life the way he did his entire life. Decaf, who is going to be 14 next month, she was the polar opposite of Buzzy. She was, a little bit worried. She didn't like different textures under her feet, and she didn't like the wind blowing the flag. So it took a lot of time to build her confidence to want to be fast. Decaf was never as fast at an agility trial that she was at home until she was 5 years old. But it was never a point to me where I was disappointed. It was always a process, and we're always getting better, and we're always getting more confident. And I think that when you really love the dog, that you don't look at the shortcomings, you look at what the dog's brilliant at, and you keep building those up and bringing along the shortcomings in the dog's time. As challenging as it was, Buzzy went on to become a Canadian national champion and a US national champion. And Decaf went on to win more national championships and actually 2 world championships. But she won more national championships than any dog I've ever owned. Nice, good boy, good boy. Beautiful. So when we take it out of context, you're a lot more relaxed, and that's where the success comes. So let's just rehearse some success and then put it back in. Okay. I really don't think there's such a thing as the perfect person to be the ideal handler in agility. There you see success in all different forms. Some people would say, wow, it's the 20-year-old who can sprint like the wind. They're the perfect handler, but they don't have the experience. And so they aren't going to have, win after win after win. And then you could say, well, it's the experienced person, but a lot of times those of us with experience are not as young or as agile as the younger people. We just have to come up with more creative ways to get those wins. So I think if you're handling your dog in agility in a way that is seeing the sport through the dog's eyes and taking advantage of your greatest attributes as a person at that stage of your life, then success is possible with any handler in any shape or form or age. So get your feet pointing where you want to go. There you go. Keep moving. Don't wait on them. Come. I think Linda's been a great student of our program here, as well as a phenomenal instructor of our program now. And she's really learned to maximize areas that her and her dog are brilliant at in order to overcome areas that she may not be as strong in. And that really should be encouraging and motivating to anybody in the sport of agility, because if you focus on bringing out the best in your dog and working with what you've got, everybody can have success.